The year is like a billion or something. The spice kicks it up a notch. Bam!
We folded space-time. Can you mind the spice?
Oh, you betcha!
All right, go, go, go!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Cordkillers on mission. If you refuse or accept it or otherwise, we're going to do it anyway. It is to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution to help you watch what you want, where you want, when you want, on any device you darn well please. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Brian Brushwood, and that was not a sweeted version of David Lynch's Dune. That was the actual copyright-infringing original Dune. Suck
Brian,
on that,
sure
YouTube.
I'm pretty sure that was a sweeted
It looked identical to me. If it was, this is the best suite I've ever seen. The hottest
Maybe
suite.
we should ask our guest today, Ms. Nicole Spagnuolo of Ladies of Leet and many other podcasts of fame. Nicole, is that real?
I'm going to say no.
No.
My gut says no, but I don't know. It was pretty awesome.
You're a dream crusher, Spagnuolo.
Hey, Nicole Spag, thanks for joining us today, by the way.
Thanks for having me on the show. I've been anxiously waiting my invitation.
So you are, in fact, a cord killer. You have cut the cord.
Yes, thanks to you and Brian, my husband and I officially cut the cord in December, and I love it. It's so awesome. I don't even notice, honestly.
Didn't do anything, did we?
Sorry, that was me. I've jumped off mic to whisper directions to Brant because Brant is stepping in for Zach Holder, who normally does the switching for us. All right, what
I was
direction
asking
we
Nicole. We didn't do anything to help you cut the cord directly?
Well, you encourage. You're encouraging the revolution of cutting those cords.
All right. Well, let's kick off with some news from the primary target. Perfection.
For love.
Wow. Was CES not like cord killer heaven, Brian?
I don't know. I think that's where all the cords went when we killed them. They didn't go to heaven. They went to CES.
Yeah, CES was full of cord cutter type stuff. We're going to cover a ton of it in the show today. And let's start with Sony. Kaz Hirai getting on stage during a Sony keynote at CES last week saying that, guess what? Sony's going to deliver a live TV service over the internet, a cloud DVR service, and more. Now, that put a lot of people over the top. They're like, wait a minute, get it? Over the top. Cloud DVR, video on, they already do video on demand. That part wasn't as big of a deal. But live TV, they're going to go where Intel couldn't make it work? Well, yeah. And in fact, Kaz Hirai acknowledged that in an interview later on. He said, Intel was in this space as well. I'm not sure if you realize that. I'm not exactly sure what drove their decision, meaning why they got out of it. He said, we are not trying to compete with the cable operators. We just want to try to bring that service a little more seamlessly. So I'm not sure what he meant by that either, but he did point out that there are like 23 million PS3s out there. So where Intel had to start from scratch, they've got a base of installed devices that they can push these things to, more if you count PS Vitas or Sony TVs or all the other devices out there.
All right. Number one, this seems like a very familiar tune. It seems like I've heard this Siren song before, but I'm not going to say it can't happen. But did they explain to us why this would be in any way different from the PlayStation Network? If the idea is that they have more muscle than Intel has, like and the reason is because, well, there's all those PS3s out there. Like, what? Like, I mean, couldn't Xbox say the same thing? Couldn't Microsoft decide it's going to give us the one device to rule them all because there's a lot of Xboxes out there? Like, that logic didn't ring with me.
Well, yes. I don't think that explains why Sony is doing this or not doing this. Microsoft has decided it isn't worth their while to do it, right? So Sony's making a bet here. The other side of it is, Sony has Sony Pictures Entertainment. Now, they haven't struck any deals with anybody, including themselves, to carry any of this content, but they've got some more experience in this part of the world, and Microsoft doesn't. So that might be something that's feeding in their decision. He didn't say that. But as far as I get the comparison between Sony and Intel. I've got a PS4, or, you know, a lot of people have a PS3. Nobody has an Intel on-Q box because they've never been made. So right from the start, boom, You've got the ability to deliver a live television service, but you still have to get the content, right?
Yeah. So is my PS3 turning into a cable box and I'm just buying it from Sony instead of Comcast?
Well, see, that's clever, Nicole, because that could explain what he means, right? Is that it's going to become a cable box, not Sony delivering it over the internet, maybe.
Well, and that's the, oh no, now I could see that. And keep in mind also, Sony has better leverage. Like Intel in many ways was the, and again, I was very, very wrong when I said that there was a chance that Intel could pull this off specifically because they're the plucky outsiders with nothing to lose. Turns out that when you're the plucky outsider with nothing to lose, all you have is the ability to make hardware. You have no leverage in the market and no experience in doing content deals. Turns out that's not an advantage as much as one may think. So Sony, of course, they do have the install base, but more importantly, they already have a foothold in the content side of things. You know, Sony Pictures, Sony did Community, right, Brant?
Yes.
Yes, much to Dan Harmon's chagrin. So I am still skeptical, and I'm just bitter and jaded and broken in that regard.
It just seems like when you're the big guy, then you're gonna be the gatekeeper of the content. Whereas when you have a device like a Roku, you know, you can sign up to be a developer, you can create a channel and things like that. It just doesn't. I don't know. It just feels like another gatekeeper happening. And
man, you guys, what? Okay, here's the thing. I think you're probably right in the end, but you're supposed to be excited right now because what Sony tried to tell you was we're going to do the thing everybody wants, give you the service over the internet that allows you to watch your shows live. Nobody's doing that except Aereo, and Aereo's limited to just broadcast networks, and we'll get to whether that's even going to be legal in the future and not later in the show. Sony's saying, this is what you've all been craving, and we're going to do it, sort of, but we're not competing with cable. And that's the part where I think you're going to end up being right, because to your point, Brian, Microsoft has tried to strike deals with cable companies to make the Xbox One be a cable box. And in fact, the Xbox 360 could serve as a cable box for some services. They haven't been able to strike those deals. I think what Sony wants to do is say, hey, Time Warner, you want to stream your channels over the internet? We'll help you out. And the Sony PS3 and PS4 can be the box you stream them to, and we'll make that all easier for you.
Yeah, you know what? And I will slap myself on the wrist here. I think I'm like the wounded animal who's just having a difficult time trusting humans now. Because you're right. This is exactly what we want.
Take
and
the live TV. Come on, take it out of my hand.
No. To be honest, the failures of everyone who came before Sony could just increase the odds that the problem was that the market wasn't mature enough, and now we're finally there. And now, because I guess that's right, we're in a different space. Every time someone else comes up for an at-bat at this, we get closer to a time period where it's looking more ridiculous that there hasn't been a solution to do this yet. And so I think it's a smart move if Sony thinks they got the juice. I just don't want to risk my heart, Tom. I'm afraid of being hurt again.
And I think you're right to be afraid this particular instance. Because,
oh, this is where you slam me down. You seduce me. You get me all excited about the idea, and you're like, it's lies, Brushwood.
Because honestly, all of this aside, I'm exactly like you. I'm like, nope, it's not going to be what we've been promised, because it never is.
Yeah.
There's got to be a knife behind the napkin.
I mean, how are you guys getting your network TV right now? Because Phoenix has an amazing over-the-air programming, and we're just getting it over the air with an HD antenna.
That's what I'm doing too.
Yeah, I got a Leaf antenna. In fact, that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about, was doing a special of Cordkillers where we talk about all the solutions that we're using as we cut the cord, so that you guys can make the transition as well. So that's something.
Yeah, that's coming up on February 3rd. Mark your calendars.
Oh, good. So that's official. We can lock that in then. Good. Our first special edition Cordkillers episode.
That's how we get the broadcast networks. I can't get my cable networks that way, and Sony's not going to deliver it a la carte. I don't know, but we'll see what they mean by all of this stuff. Let's move on to the secondary target. I'm an old school person. I still like to think of them as the WWF, even though that means World Wildlife Foundation, not World Wrestling. But World Wrestling Entertainment made a big splash announcing that they are going to launch a 24/7 subscription online network. So just when we were talking about what sports network is going to go online, It's the WWE. That's what they're going to do. All their pay-per-view events will be available on here, and you only have to pay $10 a month. Now, normally you have to pay like $45 for a pay-per-view event, but for $10 a month, you're going to get all the pay-per-view events. You'll get other programming as well as original shows, and it's the WWE launching their own network, but maintaining control over it, saying anybody can get it. You just pay us directly. It's the ultimate a la carte.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, hopefully I didn't misread this or misunderstand it, but it sounds to me like it also unlocks their vast archive of past programming, which means now when you have a long storied history the way the WWE has, you accrue not only a back catalog of all the matches, which means instantly you could go like ESPN Classic and show old stuff, but then you can also have shows that are documentaries about other old shows, and those are super virtually free to create. You know, it's like, you know, the Rowdy Roddy Piper story. You know, you make a behind the music for each of the wrestler's story. This opens up a lot of content and a lot of options. This is a big win for cord cutters, even if you're not somebody who digs wrestling. This is a legitimacy. This is somebody saying we're going to take it right to the online side of things. Yeah. What about you, Nicole? Are you excited?
I have to say I'm excited.
Are you really?
Are you a wrestling fan?
I'm not a current wrestling fan, but the fact that they're going into the archives, I was a really big WWF and what was the other one? There was like competing wrestling back in the 80s and 90s.
WCW or
it had Ric Flair, the Von Erichs.
Yeah, I think that was WCW.
So they've all kind of WCW. So they've all merged into WWE from what I understand. But the fact that I could go back and watch some of those old, I'm kind of excited about this. My dad was really big into wrestling, and when my brother and I would fight, he would they were like, okay, wrestling match.
So I'm assuming, Tom, that this does not affect any of their current distribution deals, that they will still have pay-per-view specials, that they'll still have the same shows. Like, they're not taking their other shows off of those networks.
That's a good point. The WWE is not taking them away, but we already have a story out today where DirecTV has expressed its displeasure at this and is saying it might consider dropping WWE programming from DirecTV. Vince McMahon, who's the WWE chairman, says, go ahead. You're just going to lose a bunch of money and you're going to drive a bunch of people to subscribe to my online channel. So I don't care. Yeah. Now, that's kind of blustery and that's not his exact words, but it is his attitude, which is, why would you give up money? Yeah, maybe you're going to make less money at DirecTV because of this online network, but you're still going to make millions of dollars and you'd be an idiot to give it up.
So we got one interesting take on this, because I read the entire thing beginning to end thinking, wow, this is a coup. Somebody saying, screw the way it's normally been done. We're going to do it this way, direct. But Carlos wrote us an email with an interesting take. He says, as a fan from the 90s, I'm not too interested in the current product, but for $9.99, having the pay-per-view shows and the large library from when I was a religious viewer makes this a viable option and worth the price alone. I think the more interesting development, though, is that the WWE ended up here after they had been trying to pitch this network for years through conventional means. By deciding to go this route in the end, they have become the guinea pigs for a full streaming model, including their original content along with a full library and the live shows. I'm rooting for their success, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought this was an interesting way to couch it as, yeah, we're all excited. Like, yeah, screw you, cable companies, just take it straight. But it could be said that this was an option of last resort from a company that was never able to hack it in the traditional cable world. And because it makes sense, like, it seems like if they were just a touch more popular, you would have had, just like you had an NFL channel, you would have a WWE channel already.
I think it's interesting how some of these properties are kind of becoming their own networks. I mean, because that's pretty much what they're doing.
Oh, sure. Well, and we saw that also with, and this is the reason I asked about taking content off the air, because we already kind of saw this with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck, of course, you know, went to Fox News. He had already been a long-time radio guy, but by the time he went to Fox News, he exploded in popularity, and he essentially banked all those viewers and went, you know, to most of the public, he appears to have dropped off the grid. He's meanwhile just he's got a money printing factory where he's pulling basically a Leo Laporte, starting his own studio and running his own content at all times. And I think that this is essentially what we're seeing again. And it's good news, again, not only for cord cutters, but for personalities. It used to be, that you would hear about talent that would get trapped in these onerous arrangements where the networks owned everything. They owned the personality. They said what you could or could not do. In fact, meanwhile, who's the guy that plays? Humphrey Bogart was paying for his own suits and making no money because the people who had the control of the distribution owned everything. But now you just have less and less to fear as talent. You can do whatever you want and own nothing and then step away and start it all again on your own because you have the brand value, and that's where the money's at.
And the fact that they only need 800,000 subscribers, I mean, I say only, but I think the fan base, like the rabid fan base of wrestling fans out there could easily support this.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point, to the emailer's point, rather, I found this on the LA Times. Vince McMahon said, and this is what Vince McMahon says. He said they had deals ready to go with major distributors for a cable network that would have generated fees of 20 cents per month, which is actually doesn't sound a lot to you and me maybe, but that's about 2 to 3 times what Comedy Central gets by comparison.
Wow.
So a nice hefty fee. And he said, quote, much to the chagrin of my staff, I'm not going to sign it. This gives us control of our destiny and a better user interface.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, I do think it's right. I think for the type of viewer that you have in the wrestling audience, and especially for the ability to go back and keep reveling in those classic moments of the past, I think it's a smart move that specifically targets the experience that everyone wants. I think it's good call on them.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a little signals intelligence, shall we? Wave our flags. This is the streaming intelligence that's coming from your Netflix and your Hulu. This is the segment about the streaming services. And of course, Aereo is in big news, partly because they had an outage in New York City during the Golden Globes, and they had to apologize for that. That's a side note. Thanks to Captain Kipper, who submitted that on our subreddit at cordkillers.reddit.com. Also, they are updating that they're going to roll out to 5 more markets in Q1. And they said the reason they didn't hit their 22 markets in 2013 was because of weather problems, especially in places like Chicago. They had more difficulty making sure their antenna didn't get blocked by ice and snow and could hold up in all of the weather. But the big news, I'm burying the lead here, is that the Supreme Court agreed to hear the Aereo versus ABC, CBS, Comcast, name it.
Also known
Fox,
as Aereo
Univision.
versus everyone.
So
You want me to
what's
go
the
through?
difference?
I can go through. It's ABC, Disney, CBS, NBC Universal, NBC Studios, Universal Network Television, Telemundo, WNJU Broadcasting, WNET Broadcasting, Fox Television Stations, 20th Century Fox Film Corporation, WPIX, Univision Television Group, Univision Network Limited Partnership, and PBS.
They're popular. Everyone loves Aereo. That's what it's called.
What's the difference? So this is basically taking over the air, standard big media television and putting it on my whatever device.
Oh yeah,
internet.
this is a good point. So if you're not familiar with Aereo, the way the letter of the law, there's a number of people that have tried to come up with schemes that get people the ability to get a clear signal without having to pay for cable. With the way cable works is that everyone pays they pay a retransmission fee, because normally they shoot out the broadcast signal totally for free, and then everyone just grabs the signal and down. And if cable operators want to carry certain stations, they have to pay a retransmission fee, which is why you get into these pissing contests from time to time where somebody wants more or less, or they do or don't want to pay. But meanwhile, Aereo came up with a very smart solution where they said, well, what if everybody bought a physical antenna that belonged only to them, and they paid for a cloud streaming service, which is legal, and they had their own personal DVR, which is legal, and we used a Slingbox-like interface to individually send their signal from their antenna that they personally are renting from us to get out to you. This is a very Rube Goldberg way to adhere to the letter of the law. Now, the intent is, of course, to circumvent retransmission fees, because there's no point to having them. People just want the ability to watch on their mobile device. Like, I want this. I don't want to have to go buy an antenna, set it up myself, build a DVR, set up a Slingbox, configure everything, and then do it myself. But they're saying, we will do all that at once for you for a nominal monthly fee. And the problem is they've opened up Pandora's box in doing so, because now all the cable companies are realizing, like, hey, that's a pretty good scheme. If that's legal, then Why are we paying all these retransmission fees? And then because broadcast networks have found themselves in a position where they've become accustomed to the extra buoyancy afforded by the extra money from the retransmission fees, they don't want to give it up. And so that leads us to this massive case where they were going around suing everyone in individual markets, suing Aereo here, suing Aereo there. And we've had some cases, they filed injunctions that were denied, and Aereo was winning these little battles. But we're reaching a moment where finally both sides are like, let's just get a real decision. And I guess, Tom, you said it was a surprise that they even took the case this early.
A lot of legal commentators expected the Supreme Court to just not answer the request. It was a little surprising when Aereo came in and said, yes, we would also like the Supreme Court to rule on this. A lot of folks thought because they were winning, they would want to keep it in the lower courts for a while longer. But they said, no, our business plan is to get out there without any question. So let's get it done. And a lot of people felt Supreme Court might just wait for it to work its way through the courts before they took it up. But they didn't. They said that we will hear it. Now, it's not scheduled yet. We don't know when they're going to hear it. But the signal question that they will answer in the writ of certiorari is whether a company publicly performs a copyrighted television program when it retransmits a broadcast of that program to thousands of paid subscribers over the internet. That is what the Supreme Court will rule on. Not whether it's a retransmission, because it is, but whether it's a public performance. Whereas, because Aereo is saying this is a private performance. It's one antenna, one person, one account. And the networks are saying that's a bunch of crap. They're trying to, get around the rules. But you got thousands of people viewing the same broadcast that's coming into them. That's a public performance.
Yeah, man, if you were taking bets, I guess now's the time. This is when the early action is on, we should create a office pool. I guess if I was going to guess, and we talked about this briefly before the show, I would guess that the Supreme Court is very good.
The sour cream court.
The
I love
sour
that one.
cream court is very good at answering the exact specific question that's up on the agenda without really answering the bigger question about whether or not this is legal and everyone could do it. So I think we're going to be frustrated. I think they will allow like yes, or they'll say no on a specific technicality, but I don't think we're going to get some kind of direct floodgates are open. Everyone can make Aereo-like services now.
I hate to say it. I kind of feel like they're taking advantage of a little loophole, and the fact that they're charging for this subscription, I don't know. I think the Supreme Court's gonna go against Aereo on this one.
The courts have all favored Aereo so far because what Aereo's argument is, and this has been compelling, is if I put an antenna on my roof and I have that signal go down to a tuner, and I have that tuner go through a sling box, and then that sling box sends that out to the internet to an account, those are all legal things. And all I'm doing is saying, I'm setting this up and I'm renting it to someone else, and only
times
they get to
1,000.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's the thing, is it's just efficient and scaled correctly is all, and it feels like the problem is they are using a legal means from beginning to end to accomplish what has previously been attempted by illegal means, and that is probably why it feels oogie. But meanwhile,
what Aereo's has got very good standing when they say, just because we have better technology for the antennas,
right,
doesn't mean it's not legal suddenly. Like if you make this legal, then the precedent would be that I can't then rent any kind of service like that at all without permission. The Supreme Court could rule that. They could say like, yeah, the whole thing is actually legal. I think Brian's right. I think they'll rule specifically on this question, which is this a public performance or not? And because of that, I think, and I'm only 51% sure, because I think this could go either way, really. But I think they'll lean towards wanting to rule that, hey, you know what? Private business, private device, private login, technology all seems solid to us. It's not a public performance, and they'll leave it at that. And there will still be litigation over other issues of it, but I have a feeling Aereo might prevail.
I think you are correct. I think that's I'm 100% back of your play. I'm doubling down on what you said, taking you up to 52%, Tom.
If Aereo came to Arizona, Nicole, would you pay $8 a month for it?
No, I wouldn't.
What?
Because you've got a good antenna, right?
Because I have a great antenna, and I pipe it into my TiVo, and we have a little streamer, and I can get it on any device that I want now. So I've made my own Aereo.
Now, can you do it remotely, like while you're on the bus or something? No,
Yeah.
right on. That is
What
good
the TiVo,
sense.
right?
What if this goes against Aereo and then suddenly it becomes illegal for TiVo to allow you to access your thing over the internet?
Oh, snap.
What if Slingbox
I wouldn't like
becomes
that.
illegal? Because that could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
See, this is the kind of thing that I don't think Aereo's announced any plans to come, or I guess they've mentioned Austin, but it's not here yet. But I am just lazy enough that I'd rather just click a, sign me up thing and have it instantly. It took me.
They say they only need about 6,000 subscribers in any market to make this profitable, so they don't have to cover everybody. It's less Aereo that's the threat, to be honest. Because a lot of people are going to be like Nicole, or they're going to want the extra channels. And Aereo would like to strike deals with the broadcasters to bring cable channels in, which they would pay for, and you would have to pay extra for. Aereo would like to become an over-the-internet cable subscriber. They're just getting going with this free over-the-air service. But they don't need a lot. It's the precedent that then Time Warner and Comcast and Cablevision could all say, well, we're not paying carriage fees anymore.
Man,
That's
that is a revolutionary idea. So let's fantasize here for a bit. Let's say that Aereo gets the decision. It's a private performance, and there's nothing they could do about it. Everything locks in. First thing Aereo does is spread out to as many markets as possible. And most people here, now that Aereo is totally legal, they say, get the same things that are free over the air, but pay $9 a month. Why would I want to do that? Fine. Think that. But meanwhile, they go around getting 6,000 subscribers in all the major markets. Then they add now we have CNN. And now we have TBS. And just over time, you're like, oh, and now we bundle with Viacom. So now all of Viacom's networks are on there. And by the way, premium package, it's now $20. It's now $30. All of a sudden, you have created our fantasy of a cable network where you can, honest to goodness, watch what you want, when you want, literally on whatever damn device you want. This could be the tiny little crack that makes everything possible that we're looking for.
In the meantime, though, we got to do it ourselves. We got to roll it yourself, just like Nicole Spagnuolo. So let's gear up, because we got some new devices that'll help you do it.
Is there an event with devices going on?
I think, what's it called?
The KESCon.
Oh, yeah. No, they were all over CES. And we've got 4 great cord cutter devices out of CES. Now, Nicole, you use a TiVo, is that right?
Yeah, we use a TiVo.
TiVo with an over-the-air antenna. Let's see if any of these are compelling enough to sway you to change. AirTame is an HDMI dongle. This one isn't going to replace your TiVo, but it's pretty cool. It can run on Windows, OS X, or Linux and beam one PC to multiple screens.
Well, and
so
you're
not limited to just one screen, and it doesn't matter what operating system you're using. You just plug this little HDMI dongle in there. In fact, it won Best Startup of CES category from Engadget.
Well, first of all, are you down for that? You like just a little dongle? You don't have to plug in an HDMI cable anymore?
So that replaces your Chromecast or your Apple TV.
Right.
Yeah, when I was looking at this, I was thinking Chromecast, but then I saw them displayed on multiple monitors, and I was like, ooh, I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And the idea is...
Tableau is taking pre-orders and hoping to ship in February, record 4 shows over the air, and stream to mobile. Simple TV is demoing a cloud DVR at CES. It's not out yet, but it will go and find missed recordings as well. So you not only have a cloud DVR, so you don't have to plug in your own hard drive, but if you miss a show for some reason and you want to find it, it'll look at other services like Netflix, etc., and tell you if it's available elsewhere. The new devices, by the way, from Simple TV are made by Silicon Dust. They sell for $250 with 2 tuners. They got a 4-tuner one coming, though. And Channel Master makes over-the-air antennas. They're shipping something called DVR Plus right now, which is $250 with free guide data. But right now, it's Ethernet only. At CES, they announced a forthcoming companion device to make it into a whole home DVR, so you could stream shows off of that DVR to multiple TVs in your house.
So guide data, is that just saying, here are the shows, we're going to line them up for you?
Yeah, your
normally
season passes and all that stuff. Whereas with TiVo, you either have to pay the lifetime fee or the $15 a month. You wouldn't have to pay anything.
Do they still have the lifetime fee? I thought that they faded that
They
out.
got rid of it for a while, but they brought it back.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I should clarify, we use multiple devices. So we use the TiVo to get over the air, but then we use a Roku 3 for Netflix and Amazon Prime, and then we have an Apple TV. So we're bebopping between a bunch of different devices right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you should actually join our special. Can we go ahead and pre-book Nicole to join us on our special, because she's got solutions I don't even use.
Yeah, you around February 3rd? What are you doing February 3rd?
Yeah,
all right, we're going to give you homework. We're going to put you to work then.
We've already blogged about it, so we told
Perfect. You've done the work.
All right, so which of these do you think is your favorite or your best bet, Tom, from what you've seen? And of course, they're all mostly promises.
Yeah, you know what? I compared this to a TiVo Romeo that's $150, has 4 tuners, and yeah, you do have to pay a monthly fee for it, so it's a little bit more expensive in the long run. But I just think it's proven, it's a good interface, and it works. I really want the Tableau to be great. I'm holding out to see, because that's the one that seems to come closest to this for me. The Channel Master is a cool, if you're really into like multiple, if you've got a bunch of rooms and you want to be able to watch anywhere in your house, I think that's the best one for that. Simple TV, the original hardware was beta hardware. I think that they've improved it a lot. I think that's third down there. The AirTame's kind of in a different category. I'm really curious about that.
To be honest, one of the things about the AirTame is practically for me the most exciting, because I 3 times in the last week have pulled my giant 17-inch laptop, precariously balanced it on top of my Xbox 360, and then removed the HDMI to plug it in so that we could watch, like, we finished watching Legend of Korra and some other stuff. The ability to suddenly wirelessly stream to that monitor is very cool. The other thing, if you watch the video where they break it down, they actually show, and Zach, if you want to jump to the last half of it here, they actually show the software running not even as a hardware solution, like from one PC to multiple PCs. So the idea is that when you are having a meeting, you sit down and you tell everyone just go to this URL or run this program or whatever, and then they see on all 12 of their individual computers exactly what you have on your computer. And that to me is exciting as a localized screencast that you could throw to everyone else. I think there's a lot of potential here.
There are a lot of things that do that part already. I guess if it does it really well, that might be interesting. But there's all kinds of screen sharing stuff.
Yes. Well, yes. I guess the whole thing is that it's all part of the same ecosystem, and the bridge, the jumping to my living room television is the new thing. And if there's just a single device I plug in, and now freaking any device, whether it happens to be a computer or happens to be a television or whatever, to be able to throw it over there, I'm really down with that.
Do you not have a Chromecast, Brian?
No, I don't.
Do you have an Apple TV? Do you AirPlay?
No, I keep almost buying another Apple TV, because I have the first generation Apple TV and I hacked it and I invested all this time and effort, and then they pretty much dropped that platform and then did the streaming thing, and it became useless. So it's hard for me to want to go
pick up a Chromecast. They're $35 for goodness sake.
Okay, all right, fine.
And these are 15. I almost feel like the market is just being inundated with these types of devices that the average person is going to go, I don't know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And there needs to be like this huge comparison chart laying all these out. And
saying, or maybe a special on February 3rd.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, well, that's a look at the gear. It's time for the moving targets. Of course, they're moving because they're streaming. They're motion pictures in the most literal sense. And in fact, we've got a couple here to tell you about. One, for cord cutters, Hulu's got a bunch of new shows. They're really trying to push the fact that they have original shows on Hulu that can't be found anywhere else. Things like Behind the Mask or The Bridge. There's a bunch of those shows out there, but they've got 2 new ones coming for 2014. The Awesomes is another one, great cartoon. They are going to do The Hot Wives of Orlando, which is a parody of Real Housewives from Bravo, and then Deadbeat, which is a comedy about a supernatural person who can see ghosts, but he's kind of a deadbeat as well.
I kind of love that premise.
Yeah, I'm excited about both of these. I'm going to set them up on can I just set them up? How do I do that on Hulu? I just started subscribing.
Do you have Hulu? I mean,
yeah,
I watch Hulu by just putting it on my laptop and either Chromecasting or Apple TV slinging it. But if you have Hulu Plus, then you just go in the Hulu Plus app
and just add it to your list.
I guess the question is there, and this is maybe something they want to make easier. the ability to, right now, you're hearing about it and you know it's a thing that you think you're going to want to watch. You will not make the effort to keep an eye out for it and know when it comes out or whatever. I wish there was some kind of like quick click button that it's like, throw this in my face when it's time. Because that is one thing that television is very good at doing, is you're sitting there minding your business and then they throw up an ad saying, don't forget today, Don't Trust Andrew Main comes out, you know, and at 9 Central. And so, whereas I don't think they're quite as good at doing that with on-demand content.
I know that there's something that we use that sends us an email. Like we set it up.
Oh, there's all kinds of third-party services out there for sure.
I wanted to say Hulu did that, but
Sidereel can do that as well.
Which that's like right in your face, in your email box. Hey, new episode of Bob's Burgers is on. Go watch it.
Yeah.
Hot Wives of Orlando. I'm going to search for that right now in Hulu.
Oh, in Hulu.
Don't broadcast the screen.
I'm glad you made that specific.
I'm going to search for that right now in Google. Okay, so there it does come up. They have a clip, a preview clip, so I can favorite it. I can tweet it and all that other stuff.
So there's really no sign me up button
if I
on there.
favorite it, I don't know what happens.
I suspect it just shows up as I suspect it's similar to like bookmarking a web page or something.
Well, they do show you shows to watch and trending now on your homepage of Hulu.com, so it may show up there.
Yeah, I guess if you happen to be on Hulu that day. But again, this is all wishful thinking, and they've got smarter people than us that they're paying to make.
Well,
these
honestly,
decisions.
I'm not sure it doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can actually. I just
because
looked
we
up.
haven't used it enough to find it. That's all.
If you set up your email notifications, when you favorite something, it will send you an email. So there is an option within Hulu, but you got to set it. So
it's kind of what you're after right there.
Yep.
And then, of course, the other moving target to talk about, Game of Thrones Season 4 trailer came out. Totally the opposite of a cord-cutting show because you have to pay for HBO to get it.
And let's talk about this ethical dilemma while we take a look at this. Zach, throw this on here. Dude, first of all, as somebody who has read the books, it's so hard to watch this and not play the guessing game of, oh, that's the so-so. Oh, that's the blah-de-blah. And there's like, oh, because of the thing.
Yeah, but that's the fun of it. I love doing that.
I do too.
It's tempting.
So one of the weird things about Game of Thrones, and we've talked about this before, is that it is one of the rare events where the television show is so good, I wish I could unremember the books. I feel like I feel like I got a very good experience out of the last 2 Lord of the Rings movies because I only read the first book and the last 2 were all new and I genuinely didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm a little bit sad that I'm never going to have that experience with Game of Thrones unless I stop reading right now and wait until they eventually get to, 2020 or 2028 when we get to the new content or whatever. What about you guys?
I'm excited about Game of Thrones. This was one of the things that kind of factored in our decision for cutting that cord because we don't get HBO anymore. So
have you figured out what you're going to do?
Mark's mom has a cable still.
There you go. That is one legitimate solution is go to family members.
Yeah.
I think what I'm thinking of doing possibly is going for that Time Warner Cable $30 a month thing. The problem with that is you do have to sign up for a year.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. You're going to start seeing the harder sell on. You're going to see better and better, more ridiculously cheap deals if all you got to do is commit to 2 years, 3 years, and so on. Because they're of course hemorrhaging users, and they probably don't want to set up the precedent that it's cool to turn on cable for a month and then turn it off. Or maybe they do. Maybe they'll. What if somebody think about this? What if some smaller cable company puts together a package that is a 6-month package that says Game of Thrones is coming. How do you plan to watch it? Sign up now, 6 months, no obligation to keep going.
Oh, wow.
We'd like it if you did.
Well, yeah, especially if they're like, we don't care if we're operating in your region or not. I don't know if they would get in legal trouble somehow there, but just be like, hey, we're Cablevision. You live in Austin? We don't operate there? We don't care. Give us $20. We'll give you access to HBO Go.
Oh, wow.
It was really interesting. We got a lot of feedback on the blog post that we wrote up about when we cut the cord, how a lot of people can't justify it because they bundle their cable with their internet, and it would be $60 for their internet, but with cable, it's $50.
And you know what factors
So
in
weird.
on that? In fact, they did that when I tried to cut the cord. It took me almost an hour of negotiations just to say no, cancel, 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 and they kept coming back to where eventually they were essentially paying me to keep cable, and so I ended up paying extra. I paid more for a while. But another factor that you got to think in there as well is a lot of people their home phone service, which is a bit archaic, but their home phone service is also bundled in there. Mm-hmm. But it matters, especially because I have to have a home phone service because I got kids and my wife loves leaving her cell phone in the car, and so we got to keep it. I'm paying like $20 or whatever, and finally we only. Last month, because I changed internet providers, did I finally snap on that, and I got an UMA that you just pay once and you have the line for free and unlimited calls. So I think that's a third vector that very rarely gets mentioned in that bundling side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is time for the front lines. Nicole, are you familiar with how this works?
I think so.
We head to the front lines. We got 60 seconds per story.
Yes.
Each one of us can choose to do one 60-second extension if we're really in a story. Let's kick it off. Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man, you watch them Golden Globes? I didn't because I'm a grown-ass man. But Golden Globe, Robin Wright of House of Cards won a Golden Globe. That is the first Golden Globe to go to an online streaming series, which I'm surprised that was the only one, to be honest. I mean, she was great, don't get me wrong. But, I thought Kevin Spacey kind of knocked it out of the park, didn't he?
Where's Orange is the New Black?
Orange is the New Black got one nomination, but they didn't win anything.
Oh, that was such a great show.
In fact, Netflix got 6 nominations. I think it's interesting that both of you guys just immediately skipped right to the content and whether people deserve to win. And we've already left behind the idea of like, wait, Netflix got their first Golden Globe. They're legitimate.
I guess that's a good point. I mean, and to be honest, I don't think we're remarkable for thinking that way. I think for most people, they just assume, yeah, no, of course it's legitimate. It's awesome.
All right, I want to thank Theodore A. Wolf III on Twitter, who pointed out this story at Entertainment Weekly. Fox has said they're getting rid of the pilot season. Just forget it.
What?
We screen them, we schedule them. They're announced in a compressed and crazy 2-week period. They have 6 weeks to get into production. It's nothing short of a miracle that talent can produce anything of quality. From now on, they're just going to greenlight shows and pilot them as they come all year round.
Wow. This is a major, major change. And it makes me wonder what the structural reason for there ever having been a pilot season was. I guess when there was very little choice, you only had 3 channels of distribution, it became important. Like, well, we got to pick the least popular chunk of time and throw those in there.
Well, I'm sure it revolves around summer vacations, too. Not a lot of people are inside watching TV. So it's the down season.
They all kind of just got in sync with the seasons, if you will. Yeah.
Teacher's vacation. That's what it's all in sync with.
So Fox says they're just going to go ahead and start production on Sleepy Hollow. They say they'll be way ahead of the other networks who wait till July to return to work usually.
Good for them. Hey, I got a question. Do you guys like that movie from the late 90s, a little thing called From Dusk Till Dawn? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Did
yeah,
you
it's
like
a good movie. I love that.
Oh, my God.
I loved it.
It's half of a good movie, and then there's vampires. I love the first half, though. But they got a series coming out, and it expands the cult classic into a full TV production. And I wonder, since the whole conceit of the movie was that you just had to survive this one 24-hour period, I wonder how they're going to stretch that out for the entire thing. But
it was second 24-hour period.
This is not on WB, is it?
No, this is actually going to be on Robert Rodriguez's new network, ellray, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, it's part of the fallout from Comcast buying NBC Universal is that they have to provide minority-owned networks on their service, and ellray will be one of them.
Wow. Man, what a coup for Robert Rodriguez.
And it means we get a TV series. He says this is the novel to From Dusk Till Dawn short story.
I'm willing to give you a chance.
I wonder if it's the before or after. The first part or the second part?
It's retell. I think it's retelling.
Yeah, it's a retelling of the same story. Yeah.
Are we taking an extension? Because I don't think we are. Digital movie sales climbed 47% in 2013. According to Digital Entertainment Group, consumers spent $18.2 billion on digital home entertainment in 2013. That's only an increase of 1% from 2012. But if you look specifically at digital movie sales, you see a 47% rise over last year to $1.19 billion. And they attribute a lot of that to the fact that digital movies are now coming out ahead of DVDs in a lot of cases.
Well, this kind of goes back to the thought experiment that we were talking about last week, where I said, well, how come you can't walk out of the movie and immediately slap down $9 to get the digital release the day it comes out? By making an incentive to get stuff early, I think they're doing a great job, and this is massive growth.
Yeah, I love renting all of my movies on the television now. I hardly ever go to the theater. But when I do go to the theater, it's with nice cushy chairs and it's a different experience.
Yeah, that's definitely something we've talked about before. All right, this story is Amazon and CBS tie up again on new series Extant after earlier collaboration became Prime Instance Video's most watched show. Man, for some reason I missed this story, Tom. I'm gonna have to lean on you.
Well, it's Halle Berry in Extant, and they're doing the same thing they did with Under the Dome last year. So Amazon gets it 4 days later to show on Amazon Instant Prime.
Again, man, Amazon, I think out of everyone in the last year, Amazon has seen the biggest move to going from what I had previously perceived as a distant third place to, I would say, overtaking Hulu as far as presence and being number one in the online streaming market.
You know what they can do to make it even better, for me, to compete with Netflix, is to make their interface better. Searching, like if they just figure that out, then it'll be great.
Well, the thing is, and I actually like this. I'm a little weird. I like the feeling of walking up, going through a store, finding an item, and then going to, like, as if I'm going to buy it, and it says, "Oh no, for you, it's free." Like, I like that experience, but that's not the consensus.
Yahoo showed off a plan at CES to restructure the way you watch TV. Now, to begin with, this is only going to be in 2 smart TVs, Samsung and Vizio. But the idea is to only show you options for things you get. And it doesn't matter if it's live TV through your cable, if it's video on demand through your cable, or it's Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Instant Prime or anything else. You tell them what you get, they show you options of things to watch.
Yes. I'm down with all of that.
Would you buy a Samsung or Vizio TV to get it, though?
Not to get it, but that's the kind of thing that I'd feel good about when I got it. I mean, that's yeah.
How responsive would it be?
It's going to be a search engine, and it's going to look at what you watch and then make recommendations as well.
But I think what Nicole's asking is, like, every single built-in OS on every television ever sucks because it's just underpowered.
Even TiVo's stinks. Like, I don't do anything with Netflix on TiVo or Amazon. It just,
try the Netflix one. The Netflix one's much better. The Amazon one sucks on TiVo. You're right about that.
Yeah. I like the way we clearly ran out of time and just kept on going. Like, who cares? There ain't no other story.
All right, let's. Do we still check in on the movie draft?
Yes, we need to have a coronation, my friend. So let's check in on the movie draft.
Bum bum bum. Ladies and gentlemen, the new winner of the winter movie draft, Father Robert Ballecer.
Oh my God. In one of the sweetest comeback stories in the history of the movie draft, Father Robert, who we thought had no chance, somebody who sat too long and was left holding 14 unspent dollars, had only gotten 3 movies. And we're like, man, it was a pity parade. I felt terrible for him. I was like, well, maybe next year, Father Robert comes back, spent the least amount of money, picked the 3 best, some of the 3 biggest titles, and blew past what everyone agreed was a sure bet with Justin Robert Young with Catching Fire. I also wanted to specifically, by the way, on NSFW, I don't know if you saw it, Tom, Father Robert recorded a hilarious send off to Justin Robert Young, where he calls him out, and at the very end he's reading like a Bible, you know, and he's in full Catholic gear, and he lifts up the book, and on the back it says "Suck it, jury." We also want to say in the Chat Realm League, our stretch of having a surprising number of only 1 winners. This is what's amazing to me. We have 1,000 people who play the game after, you know, the 6 players compete. And then they make their own roster. And I'm always convinced that we're going to have like a 25-way tie. But again, we have only 1 winner with $927 million. Some guy ranked number 1. His roster was Gravity, Captain Phillips, Frozen, Medea Christmas, Anchorman, and The Wolf of Wall Street. Congratulations, some guy.
Way to go, some guy. And way to go, Father Robert Ballecer. Thor, Frozen is what did it. Wolf of Wall Street did about what we expected, $78 million. Frozen with its $300+ million. That was the one nobody
Keep in mind also, he got a discount on Wolf of Wall Street because we knew it was going to be good, but there was rumors that it was going to be moved to the spring.
Although it didn't matter, they got a discount because he only spent $86 in the first place.
Touche, sir. That's a good point.
All right, on our radar, which is what the segment is when we're not talking about the movie draft, Archer premieres tonight on the FX network. And we'll talk a little bit about it in what we're watching, but I just want to let people know about that. And also, Netflix has ordered up a 3rd season of Lilyhammer. If you didn't know, Lilyhammer's 2nd season is available on Netflix now, and they're bringing it back again. They say it gives them international presence.
Good for them.
So let's talk about some surveillance. What's under surveillance? This is what we're watching. This is the actual thing.
Yeah. The actual stuff, I'll tell you what I had to watch. I had to cram like it was the end of finals to watch the rest of Archer season 4. I got it on Amazon Instant and just plowed through the whole season straight through. So freaking good. I mean, it's from the opening. Minor spoiler. If the opening of season 4 begins with an amazing crossover with the Bob's Burgers universe, and at the end of the series, the voice of Kristen Schaal shows up, and she's amazing. Loved it from beginning to end. I do want to tease that we're going to talk about Archer season 5 in our spoiler time because I went to go see Archer live. Hang on, look at this. This is my all-access backstage pass.
Oh man, look at you!
I'm so jealous of you right now.
Where I got to go hang out with the cast, and they actually put me to work. I thought I was just gonna be backstage and cool. Turns out they're all like, okay, and then I'll hand you the mic, and you run out and you go get people's questions for the Q&A. And
man!
And if there's ever a demographic where Brian Brushwood is going to get recognized as that guy from Scam School, it's for the people who are coming to Archer Live. So I'm sitting there running around from person to person, and my pocket's buzzing, and then it's like they're like, "Are you is that you with the mic? Why are you there?" But it was a lot of fun. But they gave a bunch of spoilers about what's coming up in season 5 because there's a massive departure for the show, and they dropped some specific tidbits in there that we'll talk about in spoiler time.
Well, I tell you, Brian, I want to hear what you're on season 4 too, so we'll spoiler both of those.
Okay, fine. We'll spoil everything.
We'll spoil it all.
I watched Sherlock episode 2 from series 3, which we'll spoil later on.
Nicole, what have you been looking at lately? What's under your surveillance?
We have started watching Justified on Amazon Prime, and I guess we justified the purchase of a Roku 3 because we didn't want to buy the seasons on iTunes.
So I have a question, Nicole. I had heard good things about Justified, and I went to start watching it expecting it to be a sweeping, long-term Breaking Bad style arcing story. And I did just the first 3 or 4 episodes, and I was like, this is just a procedural, and I lost interest. I'm told that it eventually turns into a sweeping, long thing, but how many episodes in did it get its hooks in? Did you love it instantly, or did it take a while?
I liked it instantly. And it wasn't until probably episode 5 or 6 that I was like, oh, wow, this is really getting intense. And you start getting the backstories of Raylan and kind of, I'm from a really small town in Missouri, rural, very rural. So a lot of it is speaking to me. This
is your version of when I watched Friday Night Lights, and I'm just like, I grew up in that town. Yeah. I do hate those guys.
I would imagine that's the same thing. Have you watched Friday Night Lights, Nicole? I'm curious if that felt the same to you.
I watched the first couple episodes when it was on network television, and I don't know, it just didn't catch me. I'm not a big football person.
But no, but that's just it.
I know that it turns into
it's for people who hate football. I mean, it speaks to both sides. It shows it warts and all. So if you're the kind of person that just wants to be like, oh, I hate those guys. Oh, you shouldn't. And then just like you feel good. You're like, yeah, see, that's what you get.
That's another one
Friday
I
Night Lights, I felt like I was in high school again, which is kind of what you're talking about with Justified, feeling like you're in that small town again.
Right. Yeah, I'm loving it now. I mean, the last episode we just watched last night, I was like, holy moly, it just got crazy. And they just started off. Like, usually they would end on something like that, but they start the episode off with like crazy stuff happening. So I love the show. I'm happy we're watching it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys know, I still have DirecTV, but I have gotten Eileen to say the words, okay, fine.
You've worn her down. The death by 1,000 cuts.
And I asked her, I was like, why? She's like, I just want you to shut up about it. She's literally.
Well, and that's the thing is you could drop the bomb. Like, we can always go back. We could just try it for a month, like a holiday.
But here's what I've been doing. I've been trying to only watch, like, okay, can I do it? Can I just watch DirecTV? Can I watch without watching DirecTV? This week I did it. We went to the movies twice. We saw Her and we saw American Hustle. Which I thought both were really fun, really great. We watched a lot of YouTube. Once I showed her you could send YouTube videos from her laptop to the TiVo, even though she can already do that with the Chromecast, she started doing that all the time. We watched Downton Abbey over the air. We watched some NFL playoffs because it was just on, and it looks much better in over-the-air HD. And Eileen watched the Golden Globes over the air. So that was my week. I didn't touch a piece of corded television all week long.
Does it feel less scary as the impending deadline comes, knowing that you've at least done a dry run?
At all now, at all. I still worry about the Game of Thrones thing. I got to figure that out. But I'm still not sure that Eileen's going to, before I go and call, she's not going to change her mind, but we'll see.
I'd hate to say it. I think there's a really good chance that I'm going to get cable for like 3 months just for the run of Game of Thrones, and then
and there's also Don't Trust Andrew Main, which premieres tonight, which we should have mentioned On Our Radar.
Absolutely,
get on the A&E network.
For those guys who don't know, Andrew Main's been a dear friend of everyone on this show and of podcasting and the Diamond Club and Chat Realm in general, and this is a big deal. It's an hour-long special. By all accounts, it's being highly reviewed. People are really digging it. It is, as a magician who's seen a lot of magic specials, it is a take on the magic special that I have never seen before, and I think could be the kind of thing that will resonate, and you will be hearing about this for a long time to come. You could be there first and say, hey, I know a guy who's good friends with Andrew Main. So watch that tonight. In fact, we're going to do a viewing party. Justin and I are going to watch online. You, of course, won't be able to watch, but you'll be able to watch us watching and tweeting and talking about it while we're watching it.
Time for some dispatches from the front. Your messages. Stay a while and listen. Brian Burgess, who is the editor-in-chief of GroovyPost.com, wrote in and said, I'm donating to the Cordkillers show. After you get some money in the coffers, do you think there'd be a Roku app in the future? Maybe we'll be talking to Nicole about this.
Yeah, it's funny.
In the meantime, he has a workaround viewers can use to watch shows on Roku. Install the hidden Roku channel and type ITPC code to add it. That will give you access to all the audio and video podcasts in iTunes, right on the big screen. It will also allow you to listen to shows like a Daily Tech News show he mentions. He wrote a step-by-step how-to article. If you're interested, go to groovypost.com/how-to/iTunes-podcast-channel-Roku. We'll have the link in the show notes as well. I thought that was a cool tip about the secret channels on Roku a lot of people don't know about in the first place, and this is one that I hadn't heard of that lets you do iTunes podcasts.
That's awesome.
I'll have to check that out.
Dennis writes us saying, hey guys, loving the show so far. Been trying to cut the cord for a year now. Haven't been able to fully pull the trigger yet. My only available internet is Verizon Fios. With their current price plans, internet is just about the same price as their internet and TV bundles, so it's hard to justify the jump. And as I've said, you're just going to see more and more of that as they want to hold on to people. I've already switched to a TiVo with a cable card over renting Verizon set-top box, so I think when everything is all said and done, I'd only save about $10 more. Any advice to making the jump in this situation? I mean, I don't know, if you're spending less, the problem is the reason they do those deals is so that they can screw you when you're not paying attention. And so by saying yes now, you are essentially giving yourself homework, and you have to set reminders. You have to remember to check on it or whatever. To me, it's not worth $10 is a beer at an airport. It's one beer at one airport. I will pay that for the peace of mind of not having to think of that. That's why I paid more to not have any cable channels when I cut the cord. But, you know, if money's your primary consideration for cutting the cord, then, you know, then that's fine. I'm not going to harp on you.
Is it $10 a month he's saving? Because that's $1,200 over the course of a year.
$10 a month is $120.
$120 over the course of a year, yeah, like I said. Or
$12 billion in 20 minutes, just like I said.
I'm just saying, over the course of a year, it adds up to $120.
Yeah. Sure.
correctly.
But don't you think
added.
that some of these companies too, I almost liken it to magazine subscriptions, how they just give magazine subscriptions away because they want to bring those subscribers number up for the advertisers.
Yep.
So it's like, where's the diminishing cost of returns when they're losing these subscribers?
Well, it's two things, right? It's not only the boosting the subscription numbers, but also the people forgetting, like Brian said, to adjust when the year temporary thing is over, right?
Yeah.
And that's where they're going to make their money. I looked at it. If we switched to no HBO, right? Like we just do cutting the cord totally, we'll save $912 in a year, even if we buy all the shows that we'll miss on iTunes that we can't stream legally elsewhere.
Wow.
And if we went with the HBO thing from Time Warner, we'd still save $552 over the course of the year. So look at it over the course of a year and say, okay, I'm going to have to remember to change it, and I'm going to save this amount of money over the course of a year. It might make it look different to you.
You know, I haven't thought about it until just now, Tom, but now that I have not only canceled cable and switched to a different internet provider, I'm paying $99 a month for Uverse on AT&T. I pay extra so that I don't have to deal with their spyware scheme. But that's $99 a month. The previous bundle with HBO and all that stuff, after the initial specials lapsed, I ended up paying like $212 a month. That's what I was on the hook for. So now I'm saving over like what I guess $1,200. I am saving that $1,200 a year that you were talking about. I could buy a used car and drive it 20 feet before it breaks
or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another successful Cord Killers session. Thank you for joining us for all of the intel. And Nicole Spagnuolo, it's great having you on this show.
Thanks. I'm a supporter as well. I backed your Patreon. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that does bring up two things that we have to thank. Of course, our patrons. We have a bit of news on that. We crossed over this week over 1,000 patrons at patreon.com/cordkillers. And also, Tom, when did we? I mean, number one, thank you, Nicole, personally. Thank you to everyone.
I was going to say, before we get into our thank yous to the audience too, don't forget you can find Nicole at other places like Ladies of Leet, with all kinds of. That's not Ladies of Leet. That's our there's Nicole. Sorry, we're confusing Brand. Make sure to tell folks where they can find you, Nicole.
Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at Nicole Spag. I actually just launched a new podcast called Nerd Parents. And it's a bunch of parents talking about nerdy things. And then of course, my husband and I run a video podcast about woodworking called The Wood Whisperer. So we'll be putting a nice little app out there in Roku soon.
Check it out. They're both great shows. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks.
All right, subreddit, cordkillers.reddit.com. Want to thank the folks who've put that together. That's proving to be really helpful. Yeah, we even have some people blogging about it. And thanks to everybody on the Patreon. What were you going to say, Brian?
I was going to say, when did that happen? How come nobody sent me a note? I got an email saying like, hey, man, I really love what you guys are doing on the subreddit. I was like, we have a subreddit? And I go, and I'm like, this is amazing.
That happened in December. I think I told you about it. Maybe I forgot.
All right. That's my fault. I should listen to you sometime, sir.
Or I should actually tell you things I think I tell you. I don't know.
Well, regardless, it's awesome, and you should definitely hang out there. It's /r/cordkillers.
So was there something else we wanted to mention about the Patreon?
No, just thank you a million times over. And people, it is the cornerstone that makes all of this possible, along with support from, Doghouse Systems, giving us the PC that we're able to do this fine production. Everything is ramping up so quickly, and we're so very flattered by how it's going. And it's all because of you guys. We have literally nothing to do with the quality. The quality is all a reflection of your own awesomeness.
Yes. Soak in it and feel the thanks. Cordkillers@gmail.com. Cordkillers.com/live on Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the Western Hemisphere. If you'd like to watch us live, it's usually 3:30 p.m. Pacific, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And irc.cordkillers.com is our chat room. We'll see you in the next battle.